I used to think coming home to myself would feel like an arrival. Like one day I'd wake up and suddenly be whole, radiant, certain, and steady. I imagined that if I just did enough healing, understood enough psychology, meditated enough, prayed enough, or manifested enough, then I would finally feel worthy. But the truth was quieter, messier, and a lot slower. It began with a deep confusion I couldn't even name. I just felt unworthy. I felt like everyone else had gotten a memo I somehow missed. Like there was a secret code to life, how to be confident, how to feel at peace, how to just exist without questioning everything, and I never received the instructions. I'd look around and see people glowing, creating, loving, and laughing so freely, and I'd wonder, what's wrong with me? Why did I always feel a step behind? Why did my chest ache in rooms where everyone else looked fine? I remember thinking maybe I was just broken in some invisible way, that maybe worthiness was something other people were born with, and I had to earn mine. So I tried. I worked harder. I smiled wider. I made myself small to be liked, louder to be seen, softer to be loved, sharper to be respected. I performed every version of myself that I thought would finally be enough. And still, when the day ended and the lights dimmed, I could feel that hollowness, the quiet ache whispering, "You're not there yet." I consumed everything I could: books, courses, teachers, meditations. I remember one year I spent over $6,000 just trying to fix what I couldn't name. I thought if I learned enough, I could finally earn my peace. I wrote in journals until my hands cramped, filling pages with affirmations I didn't yet believe. I prayed for a sign, for something to tell me I was on the right path. But no matter how much I tried to fill myself, it was never enough. Because what I was searching for wasn't outside of me. Then there was a day, ordinary and sacred all at once, when everything shifted. I was sitting on my bed, scrolling through a psychology website, reading article after article about self-esteem, confidence, boundaries, all the usual things. And then there it was. A simple definition, black words on a white background. Self-worth is the fundamental belief in your own inherent value as a human being, independent of external factors. I froze. I stared at those words like they were alive. My chest tightened, and for the first time in years, tears came without any effort, because that sentence, it was the missing key. The truth I had been circling around, spending years and money and energy trying to touch. Inherent, inherent asterisk value, not earned, not achieved. Not proven, inherent, already there, already mine. Something cracked open inside me that day. I felt the stillness of it, the gravity. I realized I had been living my whole life as if I had to asterisk become asterisk worthy, when the truth was, I always had been. That worth wasn't something to work toward. It was something I had been born with. Something breathed into me by the universe, by love itself. And all my striving had just been my soul's desperate attempt to remember what was already true. I closed my laptop. I sat in silence, and I felt something ancient move through me. Not fireworks, not enlightenment, just a quiet exhale, a loosening, a remembering. In that stillness, I thought about all the years I had been running from my own unworthiness, and I realized I was just running in circles. Everything I thought would lead me forward had been leading me back to the beginning, back to myself. Coming home to yourself isn't a single moment. It's a slow unfolding, a returning to what was never gone. It's realizing the parts of you called broken were never mistakes. They were just fragments of you waiting to be seen, waiting to be held. The worth I'd been trying to earn had been whispering all along. You were never lost, only hidden beneath layers of doubt and noise. And in that realization, I felt my humanity again. I saw how I had swallowed the belief that my value was measured in productivity, perfection, and desirability. But worthiness has no checklist, it is not a reward. It is the ground beneath everything else. There's something so sacred in the moment you stop running. When you stop trying to earn what has always been freely given, that is the first step home. That is the first breath of remembering. And from there, the healing doesn't look like fixing. It looks like resting. It looks like sitting with yourself without the pressure to improve. It looks like forgiving the version of you that thought she had to do more to be loved. It looks like honoring your exhaustion as holy, because that's where real love lies, not in your performance, but in your being. Not in your success, but in your stillness. The universe was never waiting for me to become more. It was simply waiting for me to remember. That was the beginning of my homecoming. I started to see that unworthiness was never personal, it was a collective trance. A forgetting passed down through generations of women taught to shrink before they even spoke. And you start to forgive, not because it makes what happened okay, but because it frees you. You stop needing someone else to name your worth for you. You start hearing your own voice, the one that has been speaking softly all along. You start noticing the moments where you used to shrink. When you catch yourself apologizing for taking up space. When you over-explain your boundaries, you notice and then you stop. You breathe. You let the discomfort sit there without trying to fix it. And in that stillness, something shifts. You realize self-worth isn't something you build, it's something you remember. You stop trying to become enough. You just start being asterisk. You stop chasing your highest self and start coming home to your true self. The journey was never about reaching a better version of you. It was about peeling back everything that made you believe you weren't already holy. There's a quiet magic that happens when a woman remembers her worth. She walks differently, not in a way that demands attention, but in a way that commands resonance. She doesn't need to announce her value, her energy already says it. She no longer fears being misunderstood because she's learned to understand herself. You start to see beauty in slowness. You stop chasing meaning and start living from it. You realize the goal isn't to have everything figured out. It is to feel safe enough to asterisk, not asterisk no. That's what worth does. It anchors you, even in uncertainty. It whispers, you are allowed to not have the answers yet. It allows you to be both a masterpiece and a work in progress, without contradiction. You stop waiting for the world to reflect your value. You start reflecting it to the world, and the way people respond to you begins to change. Not because you've become someone new, but because you've stopped abandoning yourself. You become magnetic not by effort, but by truth. The kind of magnetism that radiates from wholeness. And when things fall away, as they inevitably do, you don't crumble. You grieve, yes, you feel deeply, but you also trust. You trust that loss is not punishment, it's purification. You stop fighting the seasons of your life and start flowing with them. Because worth teaches you that everything that leaves creates space for what is truly yours to arrive. You start tending to your life like a living garden. You water it with gentleness. You rest when winter comes, knowing spring always returns. And as you soften into that truth, something ancient inside you exhales. You realize you've been home all along. There comes a day when you wake up and realize you are no longer chasing peace. You asterisk or asterisk peace. You've stopped needing to fix yourself before showing up. Instead of asking, who do I need to be today? You ask, what truth wants to move through me today? And that changes everything. You start living from your enoughness, not as a concept, but as a frequency. You rest guilt-free because you no longer equate stillness with stagnation. You love without trying to earn love back. There's a softness in you, now not the kind that hides, but the kind that holds. You hold yourself through uncertainty, through grief, through rebirth. You become the safe space you always sought. Power no longer looks like control, it looks like surrender. It looks like choosing peace when ego wants to prove. It looks like saying no without guilt. You begin to understand that feminine power isn't loud, it's radiant. It doesn't chase, it magnetizes, and that remembering becomes your way of life. Some days you'll forget, You'll fall back into old patterns, you'll compare, you'll seek validation. But now, instead of spiraling, you just smile. You know it's just the mind trying to feel safe again. And you gently remind yourself, I am already safe. You hold your own hand through the forgetting until you remember again. That's what being rooted in worth looks like, not perfection, but devotion. Not performance, but presence. This is the quiet revolution. A woman who has remembered herself. She no longer waits for permission to bloom. She simply exists in fullness and softness and sovereignty. Her presence shifts rooms. She has become the home she once sought. Because coming home to yourself, I sentai about finding who you are. It's about remembering you were never lost. Your worth was never conditional. Your light was never meant to be earned. Your softness was never a flaw, it was your power. You see, the world doesn't change when women become better. The world changes when women remember. And you, by simply being who you already are a part of that remembering. You are the return. You are the homecoming. You are the proof that enoughness was never something to find, only something to live. And now, every breath you take becomes a declaration. I am home. I am whole. I am worthy, even here. Even now. If this resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being here with me today.